All right. A vessel in Yahweh's house. I want to be an honored vessel in Yahweh's house. It's a privilege and an honor to be used by Yahweh in any fashion. I thank Him for allowing me that chance. But before I can become a vessel at all, there has to be a change in me. Before I can become a vessel, Yahweh had to find me in the pit, where I was nothing more than an impure lump of clay. In Psalms 40, verse 2, He brought me up also out of an horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock, and established my goings. That's what the potter does when he begins to bring to pass the new creation that he has in mind for me to be. I'm not anything special, but I am a chosen lump of clay. I didn't look any different from all the other clay that was in the pit with me. All around me there were other people, other lumps of clay. We all looked the same. All of us was just dirt, lost in sin, stuck in the miry, and where there was no escape, for we were two dead lumps of clay with no hopes and no future to speak of. Some of those other lumps of clay, at least in my point of view, would have been a lot better pick for the Master's house. They had a lot more to offer than I did. But in Yahweh's sight, He is no respecter of persons. The only thing Yahweh looks for in the clay He chooses is whether that clay will yield itself to His design. Praise Yahweh, He chose me. Yahweh's hand reached down into that pit, scooped up an old piece of clay, examined it, and said, "Now here's a lump of clay with promise." He saw something in me that I couldn't see. There's an old song that says it this way: "Nothing good have I done to deserve God's own Son. I'm so unworthy of the stripes that He bore, yet He chose the road to Calvary to die in my stead. Why He loved me I can't understand. Roll back those curtains now and then and remind me, dear Lord, remind that I'm just a lump of clay, and that without your hand leading me, guiding me, molding me, and making me, I would be nothing more than a useless piece of dirt, unfit for the Master's house." The word of Yahweh to the prophet Jeremiah, Jeremiah 18, verse 1. The word which came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, "Arise, and go down to the potter's house, and there I will cause thee to hear my words." Then I went down to the potter's house, and behold, he wrought a work on the wheels, and the vessels that were made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made it again another vessel, as seemed good to the potter to make it. The clay didn't make the choice to jump onto the potter's hand. It was the potter that chose the clay. In John 15, verse 16, "You have not chosen me, but I have chosen you, and ordained you, that you should go and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatsoever you shall ask of the Father in my name, He may give it you." Yahweh chose me, and Yahweh chose you. The great potter, maker of all vessels, and the one who will give honor to whom honor is due, chose us for His house. Who are we to now question what Yahweh wants to do with our lives? Why do we strive against the potter's hands? Why do we think that we know more about ourselves than the potter who formed us, the potter who created us, or who molded us and has a design for us? Yet every day I see the clay as it argues with the potter. Yahweh, I can't do what you have called me to do. Mr. Potter, I can't bend that much. I won't stretch that much. I can't stand the pressure. I want to be a vessel. I want to be used. But why does it have to be so hard all the time? Can't you mold me a little easier? Can't you be a little more gentle? After all, I'm just a lump of clay. Well, if you're just a lump of clay, then you need to shut up and let the potter have his way. The clay can't mold itself. A pot does not form all by itself in one day. It must come under the hands of the Creator before it can be anything other than just clay. But somehow we have convinced ourselves that we know more than Yahweh, and we start trying to tell the potter that we know more than he does. In Isaiah 29, verse 16, surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not? Or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he has no understanding? Pick up a handful of dirt, and what do you see? Nothing but dirt. If that handful of dirt started arguing with me, I'd be very tempted to do one of three things. I'd either throw it down out of surprise of the voice, or I'd slap it a few times to make it be quiet, or most likely I'd check myself in to a Salem asylum somewhere. Who ever heard dirt arguing with someone? But that's what we do. We are nothing more than a lump of dirt that argues with the Creator, that spoke us into existence. Out of the dust of the ground, we're dirt. That's what I call the height of audacity. Just being lifted out of the miry pit with all the other clay is a miracle of its highest order. But that's only the beginning. How many people get saved and yet never become useful vessels in the house of Yahweh? I can tell you that there are a lot of them. In fact, I wonder if the majority of the clay pots in the house of Yahweh are just for looks, because many don't seem to have a real job to do, or at least they aren't doing it. At the very least, tell someone about what you believe. Remember the story where the master comes back and says, "You wicked servant, why did you hide the money I gave you in the dirt? You should have at least given it to the bank for interest." What you know, you should share it with people. Tell someone. If we are going to be an honored vessel in Yahweh's house, there has to be a change from our natural condition where Yahweh found us. Have you changed since you started learning? My old friends from high school don't recognize me anymore. I'm not like I used to be. Yahweh has to get all the hard lumps out of us and make us completely pliable. Even in our natural state, if we find a lump somewhere in this body that we live in, we get concerned because that lump probably shouldn't be there. Sometimes we call it a tumor or a cancer, but it's almost always something that has to be taken care of by the surgeon's knife. Yet we come to Yahweh, and when he starts trying to take out those hard-hearted attitudes and the hard-headed way of thinking and the lumps of sin and shame, we often resist his hand in our lives. He's trying to get us into a shape to be used, and we're fighting him every step of the way. Sometimes we're too dry. So Yahweh has to water us with a lot of his word so that we can be more pliable. That water of the word softens the lumps. But I've also seen some folks who have too much water. What I mean by that is that they become so spiritually minded that they are of no earthly good. They are too slick to work with because they think they have arrived, when all the while Yahweh can't get a hold of them. They are sticky and oozy, and you can't get a certain shape out of them. People like that stick to everything, and everything sticks to them. Have you ever had your foot stuck in a wet clay? It will hold on to your shoe, and you can hardly pull yourself free. And when you do get free, if your shoe comes out, the clay is stuck to it, making it hard to walk. That's the same effect some old wet believers have on you. They will not listen to what you have to say. You can't get them to turn loose on their own way of thinking. And if you aren't careful, their way of thinking will get a hold of you. Yahweh can't change them. You can't change them, and they refuse to change themselves. Yahweh can't make a useful vessel out of a lump of clay that won't yield his will. The only way that you will ever be an honored vessel in Yahweh's house is to become pliable in his hands. It has to be Yahweh's work in you, and nothing that you can do on your own. The Holy Spirit has to lead and teach you. The word of Yahweh has to keep you watered and pliable, and then you can be formed into the image that Yahweh has in mind for you. Finally, I want to say that being a vessel in Yahweh's house is a glorious thing, and I'm sure you would agree. But I don't want to just stand around looking nice. I want to be used. In 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 20, but in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and silver, but also of wood and earth, some to honor, some to dishonor. I know that there are ornate vessels, fine china dishes, very finely decorated pieces of pottery in a lot of homes. And then there are the everyday dishes like plastic plates or even ceramic cups that are used all the time. Some are there only to be seen, while others are fulfilling the purpose of their existence. You go into some homes, you see a china cabinet, the dishes never leave. You just look at them, oh yeah, okay. All of them bear the marks of their designer, but not all are being used as they were intended. In a man's way of thinking, it's the ornate. Fine china, very delicate pieces that are the most valuable. Oh, that preacher's a good talker. He's pretty to look at. We got to follow him. But I believe that in Yahweh's house, it's the common vessels that are honored the most. I want to be used by Yahweh. Yahweh formed us into vessels to be used for a purpose. Not just to stand in the corner looking good. It's those vessels that bear the mark of daily service that are the most honored. It's those vessels that have a few chips on the edges, or cracked handle, or a few scars, a battle that gives Yahweh glory. In his letter to Galatians, Paul writes these words, in Galatians 6, verse 17. From henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Yeshua. Paul was an honored vessel in Yahweh's house. His life gave glory to the potter. He was used like few vessels have ever been used, and yet he was scarred, battered, beaten because he fulfilled his purpose. If you are going to be used by Yahweh, get ready for a few battle scars. But if you really want to be an honored vessel, then let Yahweh use you as He wills. Only those vessels that are willing vessels will be honored in His kingdom one day. Those who refuse to do and be what Yahweh wants them to be will be cast into the pits forever. I want to be an honored vessel, and I'm sure you do too. Yahweh bless.